Welcome to High Vibe Finds, the podcast. This is where I share my conscious take on pop culture and the human experience, plus a few intriguing stories that just might redefine your reality. My guest today is mindfulness meditation facilitator, Will Fernandez. Welcome, Will.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
My pleasure. For context, we know each other through the Monrovia Mindfulness Meditation Group, of which you are the primary facilitator. Give us a little background on yourself and the group if you can.
Thanks for asking this question. I'll be honest. I fell into it. I was doing the meditation with a gentleman named Todd Berry, who was the facilitator for over a decade. He came down with a degenerative disease that really put him in a bad place, and he asked me to step in for him. Wasn't as simple as just stepping in for him, though. He was very methodical. I went through a background check. He actually had me come to his house and do sessions to make sure that I was on the same page with his methodologies. Working with him was really enlightening, and it really helped me develop as a person to guide this meditation group. And it's one of the greatest things that's ever fallen into my lap, to be quite honest with you.
I think you're doing a fantastic job. I love that you brought your own elements to the group, especially with your background with nutrition, how you bring in different fruits and I don't know about vegetables, but different fruits at least.
No, absolutely vegetables.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's just such a great way to put your own spin on it, because I believe we each bring something to the table. And I loved what you've done so far and continue to do.
The people that come to this circle, people that are dynamic and, willing to sit down and just find serenity within, that's such a gift to just bring people together. There's no hidden agendas, you don't have to pay to come to the circle. It's always free, no fee meditation. And I think when you have that scenario, it frees you to, be more expressive, to try new things. And, you meet some really amazing people that come to the circle. You never know who's going to come. These relationships are really magical. So again, thanks for you continuing on. You remember Todd, the gentleman that started it, but you've continued coming to our circle. And again, we're just richer for that.
Absolutely. So I have 3 cosmic questions I ask all my guests at the top of the show. So you ready for them?
Hit me, man.
All right. Number 1, what is the most inspiring quote you've ever heard?
Where your attention goes, energy flows. And as somebody that guides people in meditation, I find this to be really true and something that helps guide me when I'm facilitating our circle. I don't know who said that, but for me, it really resonates. We'll revisit that as we evolve this conversation. But wherever your attention goes, your energy inevitably flows.
I love that one. One of my all-time favorites is, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that's from Lao Tzu.
Absolutely.
Because life is about intention, but also about action. Every time we summon the courage to take that first step towards any kind of goal, it should be celebrated.
Absolutely.
So number 2, if you're super stressed, which action would you take? Hit the gym, cuddle up with your cat, meditate, or medicate?
Meditation is medication. All the studies are coming in now that are very clear that when you trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, some really amazing things happen. Your body slows down and gives your body a chance to heal. So I would absolutely say meditate, but through meditation there is medication, but it's totally natural, just to be clear.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. So number 3, which of the following phenomena is most likely real? UFOs, time travel, psychic abilities, or Bigfoot?
I would say psychic abilities. I think we all have that. We just need to tune into it. And I say that because I think we've all had synchronistic events in our own lives where, you might be thinking of somebody and then all of a sudden you get that phone call from that person. Many things, you go, well, it's not just coincidence. There's something going on there. There's some kind of psychic ability that we're just not really tapped into. And I think a lot of this comes through meditation and slowing down and just kind of tuning into that inner intuitive self that is there if you just tap into it. So I unequivocally psychic abilities.
Most of the stories I'm going to share today are from Reddit. And there is a theme, and that theme is risk. This was inspired by Alex Honnold, who recently climbed Taipei 101 in Taiwan without ropes. It was completely thrilling, but I will say I'm not sure it was quite as incredible as when he free soloed El Capitan in Yosemite, only because every little move he had to make is different and dangerous. I'm sure we both have more thoughts on that, which we'll get into later. Mm-hmm. But it begs the question, are there some risks that are too great? And how much do we risk when we don't take any risks at all? Well, let's find out. We're gonna go boom. We're gonna go. I don't think I'm in love anymore, and I feel like a terrible person. I'm 26 male. My girlfriend is 24 female. We've been together for almost 3 years. She's a genuinely good person, kind, supportive, and stable. On paper, she's everything I want. But I'm not happy and I don't know if I'm in love with her anymore. I care about her deeply, but when I think about our future together, I feel nothing. When we talk about moving in together or getting engaged, I feel trapped and not excited. The spark is completely gone. She tries to be affectionate, and I have to force myself not to pull away. She tells me she loves me, and I will say it back, but I don't really feel it. Sex feels like a chore I'm performing just to keep her happy. When she texts, I feel obligation, not butterflies. But I can't pinpoint what changed. She didn't do anything wrong. She's the same person I fell for 3 years ago. Maybe I'm the one who changed. Breaking up with someone just because you don't feel it anymore seems cruel. Our families are close. We have mutual friends. It would blow up our entire social circle. But staying with someone out of guilt and obligation isn't fair to either of us, right? She deserves someone who's excited about her, not someone who's forcing it. How do you leave a good person who loves you when your only reason is, I don't feel the same anymore? How do you blow up someone's life when they didn't do anything to deserve it?
The age thing to me is what resonates here. In your 20s, you're still figuring yourself out. Most people are anyways. And you do have to be true to yourself. But boy, when you have that much history and that much cultivated, family and friends, and I can see the dilemma. But I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to be true to yourself. And if you're not true to yourself, you're not going to be able to be true to your, partner. So perhaps a little cooling off period, not a formal breakup, but just cooling off period, maybe in line. That's a tough one because, obviously something in this person's gut is telling them it's not there anymore. And you have to be honest with your partner or else you're going to go down a road that's really not going to be healthy for anybody emotionally and psychologically and physically on all of those levels. 20s, you really are still trying to figure out yourself out. If it's not really clicking, you really have to take a step back and be honest with your partner about these things.
My first thought is that it's clear that the spark is gone in their relationship, or at least on his end. And by the way, when I say OP, that just means original poster.
Mm-hmm.
When the spark is gone, it's time to move on for the sake of both parties. Falling out of love doesn't mean that the relationship was fake or that their time together was wasted, because I'm sure they learned a lot as a couple and as individuals. Mm-hmm. But when you start to feel obligated and even irritated about making plans for the future,
Absolutely.
It's clear you're out of alignment and it's time to move on, right?
Yes.
Attraction is an energy that informs us how we truly feel about someone else, whereas lack of attraction, it's not cruelty, it's feedback from our nervous systems. Ignoring that will only disconnect us from ourselves. So my ultimate high vibe takeaway here is that truth spoken gently is more loving than silence held out of guilt. So if OP decides to leave his girlfriend, which he should definitely do in my opinion, he has to do it cleanly. In other words, no blaming, no over-explaining, no giving her false hope that maybe down the line they'll be together. Just be honest, rip the Band-Aid right off and let her know how you feel, because it's just staying together out of obligation is going to erode the respect that they have for each other and for themselves.
I concur.
Let me read you a comment. I do think that some people here have good takes. This first one was, we date to see if this is the person we want to spend our life with. You tried and the answer is no. There's nothing wrong with that. There is something wrong with wasting her time and dragging out a relationship that you're already checked out of. That is cruel. She deserves to find someone who feels passionately about her. As long as you stay with her, you are preventing her from finding that person. Risk comes with every relationship. You can't build a good one on guilt. If that's all you're feeling, the best thing for both of you is to break it off so you can try again with other people. Just be honest and tell her you're not feeling it anymore. Never give her a list of her deficiencies, even if she demands one.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's better just to, less is more, as they say.
Right. I totally agree with that. I, 28 female, might end my 4-year relationship with my partner, who's 29 male, over a broken vase. Am I overreacting? Let me start by saying I love my boyfriend. We've had a lot more ups than downs over the past 4 years. He is kind, respectful, and supportive in a lot of ways. But this has just been eating away at me. About a year ago, I lost my mother. I kept one of her ceramic vases on the counter in our house, and he accidentally knocked it over and broke it. He said he would try to fix it or at least look around the city to see if someone could. But it was rounded and had a really intricate floral pattern that could be hard to just glue back together. I told him the pattern matching didn't really matter, and I just wanted to be able to use it for decoration if nothing else. He never fixed it or even attempted to, so I just kept the broken pieces. I was too sad to see them thrown away. I was also hoping that if the pieces sat out long enough, they would remind him that he promised to fix it. One day while cleaning the house, he threw all of the broken pieces away. I don't know why, but I lost it on him. I opened a can of worms about a lot of things that I had been resentful about, but had never said out loud. The argument turned really petty, almost going tit for tat about how he does all these other nice things for me, so I shouldn't be mad at him over one small mistake. To be fair, he does often cook, clean, respect my family, and take me out. I tried to explain that while I appreciate these things, it doesn't make him perfect. It also doesn't make me less upset. It got pettier. He started bringing up all of the Christmas gifts he got me and how much he spent to get me everything I wanted. I will admit I stooped pretty low and pointed out how the majority of them over the past 4 years have been the wrong size, the wrong color, or model from what I asked for. I told him I haven't felt like he truly listens to what's important to me. And I said I don't want to be with someone who does things for me only 50% of the way so they can hold it over my head later. I said I wanted space and time to consider if I even want to be in this relationship anymore. This is where he realized that this wasn't a petty argument. It was me being fed up over a lot of things. The vase was just the breaking point. He said he wants to make it up to me and save our relationship, which leaves me wondering, did I overreact? Also, which is the bigger risk here? Staying with him or breaking up with him?
It's interesting because that vase is almost like a metaphor for breaking up, literally and figuratively. It's a tough one. Obviously they're both keeping score. And I think when couples start to do that, there is something fundamentally wrong. There shouldn't be scorekeeping going on that way or that. So something's going on there that's much deeper, obviously, than just that vase. I'm going to go back to one thing, if I may, Trill. Sometimes it's as simple as just, breathing, feeling your heart, and going to your heart. And just really, I'm going to say it, meditate on these kinds of issues, because when you do that deeply, many things can actually emerge, and truth can emerge when you're, suppressing things. Obviously, there's some things that are being suppressed here in this relationship. Both of them need to explore their own selves, I think, a little bit deeper.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, because the loss of the vase is not about the physical object itself. For OP, it's about the emotional meaning that she gave it. It was a symbol of her mother, and when it broke, I'm sure she felt horrible. But when it wasn't repaired and then her boyfriend threw the pieces away, that was kind of the more egregious act. OP being upset with him is her recognizing that something that mattered to her wasn't protected or repaired by the person she thought loved her most. And that's why she's so fired up about it. So I don't think she's overreacting, but she does need to do some reflecting. One thing he should do is not call her dramatic or sentimental, because that would minimize her feelings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like breaking the vase was an accident. Not fixing it later and then discarding the pieces was a choice. Now, I think it was probably an unconscious choice, but it does say something about him, because if he really understood what the meaning was to her, he probably would have taken better care of it. And at least after breaking it, which can happen to anybody, try to do something to right the ship. My hope is that he can learn how to better respect her needs and her wants moving forward. Let me read you a comment. The issue, as you yourself note, is not the vase, but the fact that he doesn't fully care about things that are important to you. And if he doesn't admit it, he is not willing to change it. So it will likely only get worse over time, not better. This sounds like a long history of who he is, not just a single mistake. He does not communicate well with you. Now, again, I'm not wanting to condemn any person here. We're just analyzing, what may be going on and offering up our potentially high vibe advice. This doesn't have to be a deal breaker, because believe me, there are a lot of women making things work with men who have poor communication skills. However, it is something that he should work on if he truly wants to salvage your relationship. Building connection isn't something people automatically know how to do, and we do a terrible job as a society at creating considerate men.
I am going to agree with that. You need to tune into the feminine energy many times. As a guy, I can relate to that. I've been married for over 20 years. It's been good, but with anything, there's peaks and valleys. And a lot of this is tied into communication and being sensitive to your partner's needs. You don't want to slight a person, especially when they put so much value on that vase. He seemed to be very dismissive, and that's something that definitely he needs to work on.
Yeah, I mean, look, trust in relationships starts with apologizing, making amends, offering, and then actually replacing or restoring an object that may have been broken. But if OP wants to communicate this to her boyfriend, she could say something like, "I know you didn't mean to break my vase. What hurt me most was that it never felt important enough for you to try to repair it, as you promised to do."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone said that to me, if I broke something of someone's, I would feel really horrible about it, of course, because I do know that people imbue objects with meaning. And of course, it's only because we give it meaning, because otherwise a vase is a vase. But, it's sentimental, and both sexes, men, women, we have to be open to valuing those objects that our partners value.
Yes.
I'm relatively certain that my wife is trying to sabotage my weight loss efforts.
No.
I'm a 39-year-old male. I've been married to my wife, 38 female, for over 10 years. We also have a 6-year-old daughter. Throughout most of our adult lives, we've been very overweight. At my heaviest, I weighed over 450 pounds. I don't want to disclose my wife's weight. It wasn't as high as mine, but it was definitely high. It did make day-to-day life more challenging, but we persisted. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with T2 diabetes, and I suspected that it was caused by my excessive weight. My wife told me in the past that my weight affected her feelings for me, which annoyed me because she was also heavy. So I finally decided to take action. Over the last 2 years, I've lost over 200 pounds. I've tracked calories, started running, and joined a gym. I've worked really hard to drop the weight, meal prep at home, and exercise when my wife is at work and my daughter is at school. My wife has also tried to lose weight. She doesn't want to join a gym, but she's been open to healthier eating, which I've tried to help her with. In the same period of time, she lost around 30 pounds. I can definitely see a difference, but people notice my loss more. I try not to fixate on it, though. I didn't think it was an issue for her, but some recent events have me wondering if it's bothering her more than I realized. I still want to lose another 30 pounds, so I continue to train and track calories, but my wife has decided that I'm done. When I get my app out to calculate, she'll comment, "Why are you still doing that?" You're not tracking anymore, are you? I've never told her that I was finished. She just arbitrarily decided this for herself. She'll also make comments when I exercise. I've worked hard to set a routine, and it bugs me that I can't always keep it up because of her distractions. I've been plateauing since Christmas, and I can't figure out why. The last few weeks, our work schedules have been a bit askew, so my wife has done more cooking than me. It wasn't until we cooked together the other night that I noticed something. We were making curry, which we usually make healthier, but this time it was anything but. She added full, fat coconut milk, glugs of oil, tablespoons of peanut butter, cream, and sugar. Then she gave me a massive portion. Later, I rifled through the bin and found loads of wrappers and tins to suggest that the food came from a non-health store. The only logical conclusion is that she's trying to stop me from losing more weight. I don't understand why she has an issue with it. I try to make her feel beautiful and give her lots of attention, but I honestly don't know how I can move past this.
Classic enabling. The wife, anyways, is feeling threatened by his getting too healthy and trying to kind of bring the scales back up into her territory, which of course is not a healthy thing. But it's not unusual. This happens a lot in relationships, unfortunately, on a lot of different levels. Not just eating, but like when you feel that maybe your partner's advancing, you want to feel maybe a little threatened.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the question is, what is the greater risk here? Not being physically healthy or not being in a healthy relationship? I would say the physical is probably more dangerous. But yeah, more often than not, sabotage comes from fear rather than malice. Because, when OP's wife cooks him food with high fat and criticizes his working out, it's a sign that she's afraid of the change with him. I mean, she's afraid of losing her connection with him. And she's insecure about how she looks and worries that the better shape he gets in, the more he'll find her unattractive.
Precisely.
So for him, he should probably address the fear beneath this behavior, not just the behavior itself. He could say something like, this journey is about my health and me being able to be here longer with you. When you undermine my efforts, it hurts. I just need support, not resistance. Something like that.
You're right. I mean, you nailed it. Communication. When you see that you're being undermined, you need to point it out in a gentle way. And clearly she's trying to balance the scales, feels threatened, but in the long run, like you say, without health, you have nothing. She may not have a husband in the next few years if they both continue on this path. So you've got to look at the big picture and not feel threatened by his path. As a wife, you have to be supportive, and as a husband, you have to be supportive. It works both ways. So, yeah, now, interesting scenario though. I've seen this played out right down the street from us as well with this couple that have been married quite a long time. The wife is clearly, she's pre-diabetic, and he keeps on feeding her cookies and ice cream. And I'm not even it's mind-boggling to see this. Because out of love, I guess he's trying to, bring her comfort, but it's a very short-term fix. And we see it playing out on a regular basis. And she's barely able to walk across the street now. And, they're elderly, but these patterns are persisting. They're not breaking them. And when you see that, it just, it does kind of, hurt you to see people that you really admire and respect not taking the best path in life.
I feel like there's a term for that. Isn't it called being a feeder? Like where you feed someone too much?
Sure. Yeah. Or enabling as well, just enabling somebody to take the wrong path. And you don't even consciously realize what you're doing. It's more of a subconscious thing. You fall into these patterns. And it's really difficult to break out of the pattern unless, and they know, I mean, they've been to the doctor numerous times. Her leg is close to being amputated, but the behavior continues. And that's what's really difficult sometimes to process. When you see people doing this same thing over and over again, the risk is there, but it's not being mitigated.
When our loved ones sabotage our efforts, that's probably the most painful experience. I've actually had this happen to me. Years ago, a girlfriend would promise to help me finish projects, and then she would wait to the last minute to get started. And very often I missed the deadlines. She was very skilled at many different things, So she could accomplish these goals if she just set aside some time to do so. What I recognize now is that it was a sign that something was out of alignment with our relationship. We obviously weren't in sync, and this incident, or these continued incidents, is just the way that it manifested. Each one of us have to take responsibility for our own health. He should decide what he eats and how he trains, and if he wants to share the meal prep with his wife. But if it continues to be an issue, then he has to figure out where he's going to go from here. How is he going to get into a healthier place? Someone said, wait, you are diabetic and she's adding sugar and fat and lots of oils to your food? She's actively trying to harm you.
Food can be a poison, the slowest poison, or, the best medicine, depending on your choices. And when you are living with somebody that's actively, feeding you poison, you have to really take a step back and say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
One other comment is you need to explain to her that these changes aren't a temporary thing and that this is a permanent new lifestyle for you. My guess is she's feeling jealous of this new healthier you, and she's probably feeling threatened by your happiness. And again, that's just unfortunate if that's the case, because I could tell you that the best people in our lives are the ones who want the best for you, and they want you to feel happy and fulfilled. And they do things like you do to help support my efforts. You're always there when I turn to you. That's the sign of like love and friendship. And so we would expect that to be at the highest level with our partner.
It's ironic, though. Sometimes, people that you love and that you're, cohabitating with, many times they don't even realize, what they're doing. They just get into these habit patterns that are not healthy. It does take somebody with a higher level of consciousness to just step back and say, wait, what's going on here? Yeah, hopefully that is rectified, because this is a problem throughout our society, especially in America. The fast food epidemic is still very, very much a problem. Unfortunately, it happens more than it doesn't. And this is where we really need to raise our consciousness when it comes to what we're consuming.
Well said. Now it's time to cross the threshold into the somewhat bizarre. I think a creepy ghost may be playing games with me at work by trying to lure me onto the roof of the building. I'm a security guard at a 24-story apartment building, one of the oldest buildings in the city. One night, I'm sitting at the front desk when the phone rings at 3 a.m. The voice on the other end sounds female, but was totally garbled, and the only bit I could make out was 23rd floor. I tried to tell the person I couldn't understand them and asked what apartment they were in, but again I heard 23rd floor. After the third time of trying to understand them, I just said I would come up and meet them in the hallway. So I go to the main elevators, and both are up on the surprise 23rd floor. Luckily, we have an older service elevator. I get in and hit the button for the 23rd floor, but it won't move, and the inner door won't close. So I go to unlock the reset panel, and boom, we start going up. Door still open. I'm freaking out, and the elevator is shaking because it goes pretty fast and is pretty old. As I'm cruising up, I stay towards the back until I finally reach floor 23. I step out. The door closes just fine, and I look around the hallway, but there's no one there. So I walk along slowly, trying to listen for anyone awake who might have called, but there's nothing. I head the opposite direction and go towards the regular elevators, and when I get to them, they're just sitting there with the doors open. I was pretty freaked out, but I knew it could just be that the elevators were on the fritz, so I get in and figure I'll reset them when I get to the floor at the bottom. That's when I hear the sound of the back stairwell closing. So I quickly hop on and beeline to the stairwell. Not a soul in sight, but the maintenance door to the machine room is ajar. The thing is, I'm the only one in the building with a key. At the top of the building is a large room that houses loud machinery. I don't like going in there because it's super creepy, but somehow I muster up the courage and head in. I shout, "Hello." No response. It's dimly lit, so I can't see well. But at the end of the room, I can make out the roof access door, and sure as hell, it's slightly open. So I slowly continue forward, checking the space in between each machine as I walk by. I open the roof access door. Again, no one in sight. I felt like I really needed to make sure, so I propped open the door and stepped out. Almost immediately, the door slammed shut. Now, I might have written this off as the wind, but this door is hard to close and hard to open. Really hard. I immediately grab the handle and try to force it open, but it won't budge. I felt like someone on the other side was pulling it closed with all of their might. Finally, I managed to yank it open and then bolt through the machine room and out the door. I ran straight to the elevators, which were still open. I jump inside and go all the way down to the lobby. As soon as I sit behind the desk, the phone rings. I pick it up and hear the same garbled voice saying, 23rd floor. After I calmed my nerves with some red vines and Sprite, I got curious. So I rolled back the security tape. Not only was there no sign of me anywhere near the machine room, but according to the tape, I never moved from the desk. And the elevator doors on the 23rd floor stayed wide open the entire night. I never got in or out of them. So is this a ghost messing with me? Or am I slowly going insane from working too many late hours inside a creepy building?
Wow. I'll tell you, it's a couple of scenarios. When our circadian rhythms are not in sync, things can happen that, may seem paranormal. But, again, the working graveyard shifts is one of the most difficult things you can do to your body. And I mean, I'm not dismissing, the experiences that he's had. It's very possible that he did indeed experience this, but you also do have to take into consideration, when you work the graveyard shift, your circadian rhythms are completely out of whack. And actually, there are studies about this where you can hallucinate and almost there's almost like these pseudo-psychotic episodes that you can have because of lack of sleep and being out of sync with your natural rhythms. With that said, don't want to completely discount the possibility that there may be something there. But my first take is that his circadian rhythms are a little bit out of whack.
That's definitely a good point, because there is a certain cycle of sleep that we are used to. And if we're doing something, whether it's working late at night or doing anything that is out of the ordinary from a normal sleep schedule, it definitely could cause our mind to play tricks on us. And actually, I would say that for me, if I don't get enough sleep, then that is a big issue for me. Like if I just don't get enough sleep and I'm pushing really far, I'm not saying I'm going to hallucinate per se, but I will say that, I don't know, I probably perceive things very differently around me. I'm definitely going to be pretty grouchy, I would think. And yeah, so I mean, but would I actually see something, imagine a whole scenario? I mean, maybe if I was lucid dreaming, it's hard to know. But it's really a question of, is it more likely that a ghost is playing tricks on him? Or is it a glitch in the matrix, which suggests that, we're all living inside a simulation of some kind? And that the simulators might be either messing with us at times or trying to fix a glitch, which would explain an incident like this. Or is it just, lack of sleep?
Hard to say.
Have you ever had any creepy ghost encounters?
I speak from experience. When I was younger, I was out of my circadian rhythm big time, did an all-nighter, and had some, let's say, paranormal experiences. So I'm going to leave it at that. And so that reminded me of, I think when you're younger, you kind of like push the boundaries, and I was pushing the boundaries in a lot of ways. You look back and you go, whoa, that just, it seemed really like a supernatural. And it's very, very possible that it was just my lack of sleep that put me in a state of, high hallucinatory vibes that, to this day, I can't fully explain, but I remember it very vividly, just speaking from my own anecdotal experience, that I could see something kind of like your wires are crossed, because, sleep is so important. It's one of the things that we devalue most in our, society, but it's regenerative. And if you're not into that right sleep cycle, man, some pretty funky things can happen. And that just, again, it's anecdotal, but And there are studies about this as well that, are kind of, otherworldly when it comes to, the things that can happen when you don't get enough sleep or you're out of your circadian rhythm.
I don't think he mentioned that he was tripping or anything, but hey, is it possible somebody spiked his coffee with something, or that Sprite or the red vines? You never know. I mean, I've not
Yeah.
done that, but I mean, mushrooms or ayahuasca or acid, or what if somebody did that to him, then sure, it would make complete sense, right? One thing I actually thought was really interesting is, are you familiar with the holographic universe theory?
A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that I think is kind of interesting about that. It basically it says, I'll read some of this, that our three-dimensional universe, which includes height, width, and depth, may be an image or projection of information that is stored on a distant two-dimensional surface, like similar to a security hologram on a credit card, which displays 3D depth from a flat surface. This theory suggests that all the data of our physical reality is encoded on a 2D boundary. And one possible piece of evidence for this is that they say no matter how small you break down like a piece of sand or a drop of water, it will continue to reflect the whole, meaning that a small piece of any matter contains data about the entire structure of that matter. It's kind of a fractal reality is what it says. I don't know, it's just fascinating,
Sacred geometry is all you look at the universe and, like you say, from a macro level to a micro level, it's mind-blowing. The alignment of design is just absolutely amazing if you really take time to look. The things that we take for granted are like, it just fills your heart with wonder. It really, really does.
And that's the real fascinating part about this whole life experience, is that there are so many mysteries that we may never solve, but the pursuit of some of that knowledge and trying to understand something deeper is kind of the fascinating part of the journey.
I mean, just being in nature and slowing down is so important. And, most people don't take enough time to do that during the course of their day, just to slow down and look at the fractals of a tree, for example. Touch a tree and, get in communion with nature is so important. Again, many people just never really value that. They're so caught up in trying to put food on the table and, fighting the traffic on the 405, etc. A lot of this goes back to everybody's vying for our attention now. You have the choice, where you're going to put your attention. And when you do put your attention on something, guess what? Your energy flows in that direction. So make sure that you're paying attention to the right things.
Yeah, actually, on that note, I would say there's one Earth Day per calendar year, but maybe it should be once a week for everybody. We just need that moment to just, you know how much I love hiking in nature.
Yes.
Just getting out there, reconnecting. My wife and I love to do those waterfall hikes all across the country, just trying to string together as many hikes and many like paths that'll take us past waterfalls. And there's something rejuvenating about that. The ions, whatever it is, it's something really wonderful. And it's also picturesque.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me that you are attracted to water, and water is so healing. Of course, it's what we're composed of, and we're just like, when we gravitate towards it, it's like going back home. So yeah, I find it interesting that when you do go on hikes, that's kind of your end game, which is great. It's like reaching the summit. Touching that water is so important. Just being around it, the negative ions, so healing. And I think your level of awareness when it comes to that is definitely high vibe.
Thank you. I'm an Aquarius, which means I was born, in February. Not too familiar with the astrology meanings behind Aquarius, but I will say that it is the water bearer. It is an air sign, but it's the water bearer. There might be something there. I mean, I always loved water as a kid. I used to swim a lot. Nowadays, I don't do that as much, but, like we said, hiking along rivers, hiking to waterfalls, it's really rejuvenating.
Yeah, and finding your flow, man. Literally finding the flow.
So now let's get to the hot topic of the day. So Alex Honnold, perhaps the greatest rock climber in the world, just scaled the Taipei 101 skyscraper in Taiwan, which happens to be the first building that he's ever free soloed. This was a live event on Netflix where thousands of people witnessed this firsthand, including his wife. I don't know how she could stomach it, but it was entertaining for the rest of us. So first off, what are your thoughts on this whole event?
Well, I did see Free Solo. My takeaway was that Alex is very meticulous in his planning. And that's also a metaphor for life, right? I mean, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And I can guarantee you when he started climbing that building that he had every hold in his mind exactly where he was going to, go with things. And 'cause just that's the way his brain works. And like you say, El Capitan was much more of a challenge because of the dynamic nature of it's a piece of granite. It's not gonna have the uniformity of a building. But either way, that Alex planned this to the smallest minutia because his life is on the line. And, he's got people looking up to him, literally his wife and, family. The way he approaches this is absolutely so dynamic. The risk is there, but when you plan to his level of planning, the risk is clearly mitigated and amazing things happen. And I'm going to go right back to the saying, where your attention goes, your energy flows. I can guarantee you he never looked down. He was always looking up at the summit because that's his end goal. And the second you start looking down, that's when you freeze up. There's many climbers that, they have the expertise, but psychologically, that second that you look down, you realize, oh my God, they realize the consequences and their energy flows that way instead of, to the heights of the summit. The man is amazing. He's an amazing role model for overcoming. Most people, that's one of their primary fears is the fear of heights, myself included. And of course, the second you start looking down, that fear is going to emerge. So I can guarantee you that he doesn't look down, he's looking up.
Very well said. As a very high vibe takeaway, and I'm actually glad that you kind of see it the way I see it. I watched a short on YouTube where Alex was asked if he thinks that climbing that building was worth the risk. And he said that he has this, I think he calls it the James Bond principle. He says yes to cool life experiences. If he's asked, do you want to fly in a helicopter? Yes. Do you want to go to a black tie gala on a yacht? Yes. Do you want to free solo a building? Yes. He believes that life is all about cool experiences and about overcoming fears to accomplish something that's meaningful. So, as we already discussed, in order for him to be able to do this, he has to expand his confidence while reducing his fear. And he says that he rehearses every micro move that he needs to make on the mountain. And as he gets more comfortable, his confidence grows and his awareness to every little thing expands. He does a lot of visualization, which is also a form of meditation that does help somewhat mitigate the risk because it is a lot of pre-planning and thinking about what exactly he needs to do in order to accomplish the goal. And as we said in the movie Free Solo, Alex and some of the other climbers that were featured in that movie, they shared that a lot of their friends have died rock climbing, especially the free solo climbers. While most consider it to be tragic, Alex on some level believes that they died doing what they loved. And so in his mind, it would be way worse to not have taken the risk. Mm-hmm. I read a Facebook post that came out before he did the climb in Taiwan, and they framed it as an American climber will soon attempt one of the most daring feats on live television, climbing a 101-story skyscraper in front of what could be millions of viewers. So the comments on this post were super divided, almost right down the middle. Some people think he's crazy, while others think he's a marvel. Some of the positive comments were referring to Alex Honnold as a climber dad of two, instead of honoring that he accomplished the most incredible human feat of all time, free soloing El Cap, is wild and disrespectful. One of the negative comments was, Darwin has entered the chat. So it just shows you how people will look at the same exact thing and view it completely opposite. They'll see it as, it's not, they say the crazy thing is that this risk is optional. But in his world, I agree with what you said. He takes so much time and energy to plot out every move and to visualize it and to work at it, that to him, it's like much more of a controlled risk than it would be for us if we just decided to climb a mountain one day.
And the other thing you mentioned, it is like a meditation when you're climbing. It has to be because you have to have your full focus on that mountain or on that building. And guess what? When you meditate, you become calm. And when you become calm, you become much more efficient in whatever you do. So clearly, I mean, yes, the risk is there, but he's done it enough where he can get into that zone, as they say, the flow state, that it becomes more of an artistic expression. The climb is something that, you're expressing yourself to the world and showing the world that, you can overcome these obstacles. To me, it's a grand inspiration to see a human being push their physical boundaries, but it's more than physical. It's up here. It's psychological. It's getting, you realize you could die, man, but you don't think about that. You think about making it to the summit. It's such a powerful thing when you slow down, because I guarantee you, he's not climbing up there as fast as he can. He's doing it in slow motion, in a slow motion meditation. And when you slow down, man, you just become so much more efficient and so much more calm that you're gonna do it. You're gonna get it done. And that's what he's done, in his life. And again, he's just an inspiration to so many people on so many levels.
I totally agree. I mean, it is exactly that process. They say when it comes to athletes, the great ones in the highest, most like game on the line moment, everything slows down for them. And they're able to sort of see much more clearly what they need to do. Whereas, those who are not quite dialed in, it becomes faster than ever. They take a step back to throw the ball, boom, they're already tackled. And so, but I always like to say that free soloing is the ultimate sport, because if you make one wrong move, you die. So imagine if Michael Jordan had to make every single shot that he took in a game, because if he missed one, the result would be the loss of his life. It's that kind of a reality for them. And I agree with you. I admire him too. It's because I believe that most people are trapped by their fears. It could be as simple as being afraid to be social at a party, or to learn a new skill, or in the bigger picture, to pursue our bliss. So we tend to limit ourselves and block ourselves from new experiences, especially as we get older. I think when we're young, we have that free spirit, running around, try different things. Don't be afraid of what other people think. Don't be afraid of being judged. But as we get older, we start to have awarenesses, and we put way too much emphasis on what other people think. So I admire that he can sort of block that out and say, I know myself. I know what I want to do, and I know that I can do it.
There's a physical component as well to those limitations, but I think, like you say, for many people, it's mostly up here. It's the psychological limitations that are limiting us, these ceilings that we put on ourselves, and it just limits us, on so many domains. And you see it quite often in a lot of things. People getting stuck in career paths that, they're very unhappy with, but, they just accept it as like, oh, this is what, I'm going to do because it's, providing me security, but is it really? We need to take those risks sometimes, and sometimes we need to be pushed out of our comfort zone. There were times when I was in positions and, I lost that position. And, I was terminated, and, and I was like so mad at the world, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then you realize a few years later, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because so many other doors opened up. So again, it's just how you frame things. Are you going to get stuck, or are you going to get unstuck and see things as there's always opportunities out there, as long as, you frame things as, hey, this is a challenge that can be overcome, but, you got to step up to the plate and take a couple of swings.
Yeah, well said. I think that goes along with the theme of risk, which is for people who get too comfortable and they don't even want to look outside that bubble that they're in, that is perhaps the greatest risk of all, especially when it comes to ideas. If you stop being open to new ideas, it becomes an echo chamber. And that's the problem with a lot of thinking today, is that people, they just go into that one bubble and they hear one perspective and they never look outside.
You have to know that you don't know. You have to know that there's so much to learn. And sometimes your perspective, as sound as it may seem, you have to be able to pivot and say, well, you know what, maybe that perspective isn't all that I've made it out to be. Sometimes we just don't want to admit that, our perspective is maybe not the best perspective, but you kind of like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns because that's what I believed for all these years. And then, you really, really do get stuck. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Trill. You've got to be open, and you've got to have that mind that just says, hey, man, I'm open to the universe. I'm open to other ideas, other dimensions, other perspectives.
That's true. Yeah, I think we all should reserve the right to evolve, to change our minds when new information is presented to us. And I think the biggest problem is that too many people become very stubborn and stuck in something, and then we put up a wall and we're not going to look. And this goes for this situation too. It's like trying to convince, I wouldn't want to say convince, trying to convey to people who look at Alex Honnold as crazy or as too risky in this moment. That's for, you can try to say, hey, look, in his reality, he takes these steps to make sure that he's ready to accomplish this type of a goal. So to him, it's not any more risky than it is for you to drive to work in heavy traffic. It's all about like his own experience and his own preparation. Now, on that note, as you know, I once used to do a lot of risky things when I was in my late teens. We all think we're immortal back then.
Yeah, we do.
One of the big stories that we've shared, I once ventured out onto a ledge of the 19th floor of the Contemporary Hotel in Disney World. And I almost fell to my death.
Jeez.
And it did really reset my mindset about it because, I saw this like ledge and I thought I can go from one side to the other. But all of a sudden this gust of wind came up and I lost my balance and I had to, at the last second, dive back to where the stairwell was. And I barely was able to grab it. And I know you always get skittish when I talk about this, right?
Oh yeah, man. No, it's an amazing story, and when you're young, you don't do risk management, right? You just go, oh, that looks like fun. I'm going to do, we've all done it. We've all done stupid stuff. But that could have cost you big time.
Well, that was the turning point for me because it was the 19th floor and it was, if I would have fallen, I think the probability of death would have been 99.9%. So I recognized that. And later on, when I went back to my hotel room, I could not fall asleep the entire night because I was just sitting there going, oh my goodness, was that worth it? Make a couple of friends while I'm on a vacation. I got them trying to impress them or push my limits, whichever the way it went. I almost fell off that building. And if I didn't get somewhat lucky and grab onto the railing, that would have been it. So, I learned a valuable lesson that day about risk and where my limitations should be. Would I have done that if I had a harness? Hey, yeah, sure. If we all had a protective harness, there's a lot more things that I would be wanting and willing to do. But that was just an impromptu moment so many things to consider. The ledge could have collapsed beneath me. Just so many things to consider. You live and learn. And luckily I was able to live through that because, so let me just jump onto this. I think this is kind of leading to two things. One of them being another story that I saw that's sort of based on this, which is a question someone raised. They say, how do you become brave? So the original poster in this case said, I admit that I'm not a brave person. I feel panicked in simple situations. I easily give up and am constantly overwhelmed. My problem may be that I'm overthinking things and my own inner voice may be bringing me down. So many times when I feel low, I try to pick myself up, but I realize deep down that I can't do it. I don't have the confidence or the willpower. So I ask, how does one become brave?
Baby steps. Baby steps. A lot of us are introverted. I'm one of those people. And by the way, Todd Berry was also very introverted when he shared with me towards the end of his life, the gentleman that started this meditation circle, one of people's greatest fears is public speaking, right? And albeit, it's a meditation circle, but you still have to kind of push yourself out of your comfort zone. And, there takes a certain amount of bravery to do that. Todd exemplified that by doing this for over a decade. It was not easy for him. He shared that with me. He said, I'm an introvert, but he saw the value of doing this. So he took small steps. He didn't just jump into this. It's a celebration. Once you start to, move forward, It's very fulfilling. It's like nothing. People can pay you money, people can give you accolades, but intrinsically you can feel the growth when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And that bravery, it's amplified by your actions. Some very magical things happen. So, it may not seem brave to lead people, but, you kind of open yourself up a little bit. And, you do have to have a certain amount of courage. I've evolved. It's helped me to evolve, and I understand now why he did it for so long. But again, I think it's baby steps. You do it slowly. I didn't just jump into it. I start studying more, really trying to evolve as a human being, because you never forget, to remain a student while you teach others.
One of these comments I really like, it says, competence leads to confidence. Learn a topic inside and out. Train your skills until you master them. Your knowledge and skills will make you unstoppable. Another comment says, mastering something, even in solitude, builds baseline confidence. When you're great at a skill like, say, programming, you carry a sense of worth both among peers and in everyday life. That belief, I'm capable, I'm valuable, gives you something to stand on, even socially. It might not make you instantly charismatic, but it helps you carry yourself with pride. I can agree, like, if we have something that we feel we're good at, it does sort of help our self-esteem a little bit. It makes us feel like, we at least can know that about ourselves, as opposed to if we don't have anything. And then the last thing I'll say is, bravery is not the absence of fear or doubt. It's when you have fear and doubt, but do it anyway. The voice in your head thing that they mentioned, obviously that's a big part of it too. It's how we speak with ourselves. If we're compassionate and kind to ourselves as opposed to berating ourselves, we start creating those moments in our life because our subconscious hears everything that we say and it becomes a program. So let's just say that a climber had this like script in his mind where he says, I'm very good at climbing, but there's always a part where I'm just going to always fall. I'm always going to lose my grip at the worst moment. That's a dangerous sentiment to be in there because that will tend to come true more than not.
Yeah, no, I absolutely 100%.
Even if Alex had fallen off El Capitan or Taipei 101, I believe that his spirit wouldn't have perished, because I believe we're all energy, sort of eternal beings. I believe his soul would have continued on. Yes, it would have been a challenge for his friends and his family, but that's kind of the Earth experience we all share. What I wanted to say is this all kind of also leads to the fact, like we already said, that Alex does a form of meditation, which is rooted in visualization, but in order to calm his nerves and focus his mind, there has to be some form of a meditative state he goes into. So as a mindfulness meditation facilitator, I thought I'd ask you, what are the top 3 or 4 benefits to meditation?
Thank you. Thanks for asking that, Trill. Just slowing down, focusing, anchoring your consciousness to your breath brings so many benefits. The parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And when that happens, man, it's that rest and digest mode where your blood pressure is lowered, heartbeat is lowered. You're basically giving your whole body a break. And, if you think about it, you're a host. What goes on up here in your mind, you're hosting literally trillions of cells in your body, all working in harmony. So when you slow down, you're giving your cells on a cellular level, your microbiome, all this amazing life that's within us. It's a universe within us. And when you consciously slow down, you're giving everything in your body a chance to be in harmony. And when that happens, man, you're going to work at a very optimal state in life. So to me, meditation is one of the keys to really tuning in to becoming, the best that you can be. And unfortunately, like I said, too many people just get caught up in the race out there, and they forget that, this living entity within us, everybody in here needs a break. And the way you do that is by consciously slowing down and just meditating. And again, it's a great metaphor. What Alex did, just by slowing down, you become so much more effective at being able to conquer the mountain, conquer the building, And just that calmness, that inner calmness is power.
Very beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining me today, Will. This has been super fascinating. Before we peace out, is there anything you'd like to add? Any final words of wisdom, observations, anything?
Again, I think it's something that Todd Berry, the gentleman that started this meditation circle, has taught me. And that is, service to others is the rent that you pay for the room here on earth. And that saying is by Muhammad Ali. And, he served others for many years. And I'm learning that by serving others, I'm gaining so much more. Doing this has opened up so many doors. I've met people like you, Trill, and just wonderful people. It's interesting, the people that the meditation circle attracts. It's like a magnet for people that are seeking higher consciousness. And I think that's why Todd did it for so long, is that, it's a magical thing. We're only on this planet for, a few minutes, really, in the big scheme of things. And to have people come together on a regular basis to just sit and be present with each other is an absolute magical thing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about this and hopefully to promote the many, many benefits of mindful meditation.
Every Monday in the city of Monrovia, you can find this meditation group.
We are on Meetup, Monrovia Mindful Monday Meditations. And we, again, always free, no fee meditation. We just invite you to come and sit with us and be present.
Thank you so much again, Will. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Trill. Appreciate it, brother.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on today's stories. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity. Until next time, namaste. Alex is climbing this building with no ropes? Just